Have you ever heard someone say, "I tore my rotator cuff"? But here's something that surprises many people. The rotator cuff isn't one muscle. It's actually a team of 4 muscles working together to keep your shoulder stable while allowing it to move freely. In the next few minutes, you'll understand what the rotator cuff actually is, why it's so important, the 4 muscles that make it up, what each muscle does, and why rotator cuff injuries are so common. Let's dive in. The rotator cuff is a group of 4 muscles and their tendons that surround the shoulder joint. Together, they connect the scapula, or shoulder blade, to the humerus, which is the upper arm bone. Think of them as a dynamic seat belt for your shoulder. A seat belt doesn't stop you from moving, it keeps you secure while you move. The rotator cuff works in a very similar way. Instead of holding the shoulder rigidly in place, it constantly adjusts its pull to keep the head of the humerus centered inside the shoulder socket while your arm moves. And that's incredibly important because of how the shoulder is built. Why does the shoulder need the rotator cuff? To understand that, let's first look at the shoulder joint itself. The shoulder is the most mobile joint in the human body. It allows you to reach overhead, throw a ball, swim, lift objects, or simply reach behind your back. But all that mobility comes at a cost. The socket of the shoulder, called the glenoid, is surprisingly small and shallow. Imagine balancing a golf ball on a tee. That's a bit like the relationship between the humeral head and the glenoid. This design gives us incredible freedom of movement, but it also makes the shoulder naturally unstable. So how does it stay together? Part of the answer comes from structures like the labrum, capsule, and ligaments. But during movement, the real heroes are the muscles of the rotator cuff. They continuously pull the humeral head into the socket, preventing it from sliding excessively while larger muscles generate movement. Now let's meet these 4 muscles. Meet the rotator cuff. A simple way to remember them is with the acronym SITS: Supraspinatus, Infraspinatus, Teres minor, Subscapularis. Let's look at each one. We'll start with the muscle most people have probably heard about. The supraspinatus sits above the spine of the scapula in the supraspinous fossa. Its tendon passes underneath the acromion before attaching to the greater tubercle of the humerus. Traditionally, anatomy textbooks taught that the supraspinatus initiates the first 15 degrees of shoulder abduction before the deltoid takes over. While that concept is still widely taught, modern research has shown that the reality is more complex. Electromyography, or EMG, demonstrates that the supraspinatus, deltoid, and several other shoulder muscles become active almost simultaneously before arm movement begins. So, rather than one muscle doing all the work first, they function as a coordinated team. The supraspinatus certainly contributes to shoulder abduction, especially at lower angles where it has an excellent mechanical advantage. But one of its most important roles is providing dynamic stability. Now, let's move just below the spine of the scapula. Here we find the infraspinatus. Its primary movement is external rotation of the shoulder. Imagine winding your arm back before throwing a baseball. That's one movement this muscle helps produce. But like the supraspinatus, movement isn't its only job. The infraspinatus also helps stabilize the shoulder by pulling the humeral head backward and inward, balancing the forces produced by larger muscles during movement. Working closely with the infraspinatus is a much smaller muscle called the teres minor. It also performs external rotation. Although it's considerably smaller, it plays an important role in shoulder stability. You can think of the infraspinatus and teres minor as teammates, working together to control external rotation while helping keep the humeral head centered in the socket. So far, we've looked at muscles on the back of the shoulder. Now let's move to the front. Covering almost the entire anterior surface of the scapula is the subscapularis, the largest and strongest muscle of the rotator cuff. Its main action is internal rotation. For example, when placing your hand behind your back or reaching across your body, the subscapularis is working. It also provides powerful anterior stability, preventing the humeral head from moving too far forward during shoulder motion. Now here's the most important concept in this entire video. Although each muscle has its own primary movement, that's not their main purpose. Their greatest job is working together. Imagine the shoulder as a golf ball resting on a tee. Every time you move your arm, large muscles like the deltoid create powerful forces that could easily push that ball off the tee. The rotator cuff prevents that from happening. Each muscle continuously makes tiny adjustments to its pull, compressing the humeral head into the glenoid while balancing forces in different directions. That's why I like to think of the rotator cuff as a dynamic seatbelt. A seatbelt doesn't stop movement, it keeps you secure while you're moving. That's exactly what the rotator cuff does. It allows the shoulder to remain stable while still giving you incredible mobility. Now that we understand how much work these muscles do, it's easier to understand why they're frequently injured. Every time you reach overhead, lift something, throw, push, pull, or even carry groceries, your rotator cuff is working. Over months and years, these tendons can become irritated, overloaded, or gradually degenerate. Common causes include repetitive overhead work, sports like tennis, volleyball, baseball, or swimming, falls, heavy lifting, and age-related tendon degeneration. Among all four muscles, the supraspinatus tendon is injured most often because it passes beneath the acromion and experiences particularly high mechanical loads during many everyday activities. Let's quickly put everything together. The rotator cuff is made up of four muscles: supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, subscapularis. Together, they help move the shoulder, keep the humeral head centered in the glenoid, provide dynamic stability throughout movement, allow the shoulder to be both incredibly mobile and remarkably stable. So if you remember only one thing from this video, remember this. The rotator cuff isn't simply a group of muscles that move your shoulder. It's a team of muscles that make shoulder movement possible by keeping the joint stable every single second your arm is moving.